And we're going to kick off for the Thursday, July 10th edition. I cannot believe it's July 10th already of the Vancouver Power BI Modern Excel User Group Meetup. We've got Lee Becker with us today, and I've got a couple of things I'm just going to sort of mention before we actually get started here for today and turn it over to Lee. So first off, of course, a big thanks to the sponsors, Skillwave being my training platform where we teach advanced Excel and Power BI courses and basic stuff too, but we're super proud of our advanced material there. That is a company that is owned by Excel Guru, which also happens to be the company that builds and distributes Monkey Tools, my Excel add-in for helping you build better Excel solutions faster. And my clicker is not on the right screen. So a couple of notes just about our next meetups that we have coming up. In a couple of weeks, we are welcoming back one of the founding members of VanPug, actually Scott Stauffer, will be joining us to talk about managing change in Power BI with semantic models and Git. Oh man, a lot of keywords there for the sound programmatic. So I'm looking forward to having Scott back on stage. He's actually going to be doing this live from the Vancouver Microsoft boardroom, and I'll be online, I think, but it should be a good session. We'll always have fun with Scott when he's here. Our next Excel track, we've got Sumit Bansal is going to be joining us, and he's going to be talking about regex functions in Excel to do advanced data cleaning. Should be super, super exciting, whether you pronounce it regex or regex, whichever. There's going to be lots of good material that we're looking forward to seeing there. So I'm looking forward to having, Sumit indeed is from Trump Excel, indeed. So should be a good time. These are both open for RSVPs now, so don't miss out on those. Quick note on Monkey Tools. We have a new feature that we have released in Monkey Tools. I've got a new current workbook features. So what these are is I've added a new custom function that you can inject for free, which is called FN Current Workbook. I also have a current workbook monkey, which basically builds this thing for you and allows you to choose which filters you want. The concept behind this one here is if you're familiar with getting data from an external workbook, you get a certain view with different columns that you can actually choose between tables and named ranges, things like that. If you want to use the content from your current workbook, though, you have to write the query yourself. So I said, well, this is crazy. Why don't we have a button that's like, get data from current workbook? So I built one of those, but the current workbook function doesn't actually have a way to determine between tables and named ranges. So I built up a workbook function that emulates that ability. So you can definitely check that out. It's in the latest version of our Monkey Tools. Effectively have your get data this workbook open or workbook option and replicate your columns, and it gives you an output that is consistent with Excel.workbook in most cases. Naturally, of course, there's always bug fixes and things like that go into every build of Monkey Tools, but that's the newest feature that is available in our software. Just a quick note that at Skillwave, we have a big Summer of Learning special going on until August 31st right now. Any of our on-demand courses, you can save 50% using the code SUMMER50. If it is one of our premium coach courses, you can save 30% off of those ones. We aren't discounting those quite as much, but that's because they've got a huge amount of content in those ones there. Our Fundamentals Academy is one of our coach products. This is one where we teach people all of the basics around working with Excel, filling in knowledge gaps, getting people into data visualization and Power Query and functions and things like that, pivot tables. You also get access into the Ask Ken sessions, which we host twice a month, where you can ask me basically anything you want and we'll give you an answer. So if you have members on your team or yourself or feeling you just want to round out those gaps in your Excel knowledge, this is a fantastic program. And the big benefit, as I say, is that you actually get access to a live instructor who will help you out when you get stuck. In addition, our next semester of that kicks off August 13th, as does the next semester of our Self-Service BI Academy. This is our sort of premier training program where we get people into Power Query, Power Pivot, Power BI as well. And we've also just announced that everybody who registers for SSBI also gets the Fundamentals Academy included, just because, we all know that even advanced users still have gaps in the way that we learn. So, we're giving you access to basically the entire journey of Excel through this product. So if you're interested, until August 31st, you can save 30% off of your registration of the SSBI Academy. This meetup, along with all meetups, is recorded and will be hosted on the Skillwave YouTube channel. I am actually not in the office today, so it's going to take me at least 24 hours to get that processing done and posted. But once you do, we will notify you through the meetup site. So just make sure that you are subscribed and watch for that, and you will be notified when the recording is live. The last thing that I want to just throw out there is if you'd like to get involved and come and speak to our meetup, we would love to have you. I know Lee has actually said that she's sort of new to this process. And I think that is absolutely awesome that we actually get somebody to bring us a fresh perspective of things. If you'd like to come and actually be part of this and share some cool things with us, we would love to have you. Just fill out the little survey here and our team will get in touch with you. And on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Lee for today. And Lee's got a presentation for us about quick tips in Excel, not a formula site. So this will be interesting. So Lee, the floor is yours. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if you'd like to take over, tell us some cool things about Excel. You're very welcome.
So I'll just introduce myself a little bit. So I would just call myself like an Excel user, but I really enjoy using Excel. This session was designed with my colleagues in mind, basically, who are people who just use Excel, but just as a tool to get things done. And because I quite enjoy going to meetups and watching YouTube videos, I've sort of thought that they've helped me so much that if I run a really quick session for them, it will just really easily save them that much time and more. And I always just think that there are so many ways of improving the way that you work that are just not complicated at all. It's just about knowing that it's there. So outside of work, I'm quite a big advocate for reducing waste, and I'm also heavily involved in our local repair cafe in Rugby in the UK, which also has a really great community. Right, so I'm just going to start sharing my screen now. Okay, so right, so oops. So the first thing I'm just going to show is sometimes if you want to do some calculations, like summing some figures that, like it's not like the whole lot. Oh.
It's all good, Lee. I'll mute any interruptions that come in through on the thing or whatever else. So just carry on.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So quite a easy way of doing that is like if you want sort of an ad hoc figure, if you I'm pressing the control key down on my keyboard and then I'm just selecting the ones that I am interested in. So for example, if I wanted to add up these numbers here, so you can see it on this toolbar down here. And a few years ago, this new feature got added where you can actually copy this amount onto your clipboard, which is really useful because before, as soon as you clicked off it, the number would disappear and you would lose it. So what it's possible to do now is then paste that value into here. And you can also paste it into other programs as well. So it's not just in your Excel. So another thing, so this is something I think I just saw someone doing it. They weren't showing me and I just didn't realize it was possible to do that. But a really easy way of moving columns around is if you highlight the columns or rows that you need. I think it also works with cells as well. And if you hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and carefully move the cursor until it's got this 4-direction icon, and then when you move it, you can see that it moves the bar in between two other columns. So now if I let go, it will drop it there and it will reorder my columns really easily. If you don't hold the Shift key down, that will kind of try and copy over the other cells instead. Okay, so and then one thing I think that quite a lot of people find really useful, but not everyone knows how to do, is just freeze pane. So this is like an example where there's quite a lot of data. So when you're scrolling down, you might think, oh, I can't remember if this is the first name or the last name. So what you can do is if you go to the View tab here and then click on Freeze Panes. So the pane that it freezes is the one that is one above and one to the right of the one that you want. So if I just want to freeze the top row, then I'll highlight this cell here and then do Freeze Panes, and then that will keep the headings at the top. Okay. So the next one is, for example, this data, I've got a load of email addresses, but a lot of them are hidden because they're wider than the width of the column. So an easy way to resize the column is to double click on the column, and you can also do that with all of the columns in one go by highlighting all of them and then double click, and then it makes them all the right width for you. One thing that sometimes happens is if you've got one cell with a lot of data in, then it can make it really, really huge, sometimes bigger than the size of your screen, and then sometimes you end up having to kind of zoom out a lot to put it back to the right size. So here is one way of putting your formulas down. So I've got one formula in here that's doing a calculation on this column, but you don't need to type the same formula into all of them. So we're going to just want all the same formula in all of them down here. So what you can do is if you click on it and then move the cursor until it turns into this cross shape, and then you can drag that down like that. So one thing that works really well, but if you've got really a lot of data again, then that sometimes can take a really long time as well. So the other thing that you can do that will just drag it down to the bottom is if you move it to to be the crosshair and then double click, and then that will take it all the way to the bottom. So if I wanted to check how that's actually done what I wanted it to, then instead of having to scroll all the way down, what I can do is if you press the Control and then down arrow, then that will navigate to the bottom of the data, and then that works similarly to go up. So because I've got a freeze panes, it has just moved to the top of there, and then left and right, and I think you can also do Control Home and Control End, which will take you to the top left or the bottom right of your data as well, which is quite handy. Another very common thing to need to do is if you want to look at the data, you can put a filter on it. So that can be found in the Data tab, and then there's a button there. So as soon as you just need to have the cursor in anywhere within your data, and then you click on Filter, and it will automatically put a filter on all of your columns. So that, for example, if I wanted to see all the rows that have got Birmingham in them, then they're there. So now I'm going to show a few shortcuts that I find really useful. So the first one is Control D. So if you have the cursor in the cell and if you press Control and D, then it will basically duplicate the value that's above it. And you can also do it with a load of cells like that, and it will populate all of them. And also, if you want to do it on filtered data, then that works. So I'm just gonna, so if, for example, if I want to type something like in here, and I want that to be all the Birmingham ones, then if I do Control D and then take that filter away, then that populates just in the ones that were filtered. And so another one that I find really useful is if you do Control and semicolon, then that puts in, it kind of like hard codes in today's date, and it will stay at that date. If you want one that changes, then there's a formula called today that you can use, and then when you open the file tomorrow, then that will have changed to tomorrow's date, but this one just fixes to today's date. So one that one of my colleagues showed me that I thought was really cool is if you've got a bunch of values in here and you want to see, so you want to populate this, if you type it, then it's really easy to type it incorrectly. But if you press Alt and down, it comes up with a list of all of the different values that are already in that column. So that's without having any sort of drop down list or anything already. So that's just with any data that will work. So the next one is clipboard history. So if you copy a value and then paste it, so it will just paste the last value. So I've pressed Control C to copy, and then Control V is to paste. But if you want to copy the value from 2 or 3 copies ago, then I think you used to have to like recopy it. But if you press the Windows key and V, then it brings a list of the past, I don't know how many items, but it brings them and then you can select them. So that is really handy. And I actually, sometimes I just use it to check what the last thing that I copied was, because I can't always remember. So now for a fun one is if you press Windows key and a period or full stop, then it brings up the emoji window. So I can have a super smiley face into here, and maybe this is an unamused face, and then I'm going to have a crying face there. But the thing that I thought was really cool is that this actually works in the tab names as well. So if you go to rename your tab, and so if we've got one called calendar, it might make sense to have a picture of a calendar in it so that it's got a little visual. So this one I think is not new, but what I can't remember. I think I heard it on a podcast somewhere, but it's really handy. So if you do Alt and equals, then it automatically sums the values for you, and it also works going across ways as well. So Alt and equals. And then while I'm here, so when I created this, I used an array formula to just generate some random numbers in here, but they keep changing. So every time I do anything, they change. So if I want to fix those numbers in place, there's a few ways of doing it. If you highlight them and do Control to copy them, you can now also do Control Shift V, and that will do paste values only. So now the formula has gone. So now the numbers are fixed. But another quite nice way of doing it, I'm just going to undo that by doing Control Z. So we can see that this is still the random numbers that will keep changing again. Another way of doing it is if you highlight the values and right click and drag away and drag back, then you get this menu that gives you the option to do copy values, which is also quite nice. So I quite often will use that with columns, like I'll just drag like that and it's just really quick way to do it. So going back to filters, there's just a few little things that I think are quite useful in filters. And I think this is one of them things that like the menu is there and it's just written, but quite often people just don't see it. But so if I want to filter, well, first thing, it's possible to search within the filter. So if I, for example, I can see that there's this value that says Winslow, Buckinghamshire, and a separate one that says Winslow, but I might want to see all of the ones that say Winslow. So what you can do is if you can search within that, and that will bring both of them up. So I can say okay, and it will bring both of them, so I don't have to just choose one of them. And the other thing that it's possible to do is add more items to it without like removing the first one. So if I oops, I need to, yeah, so if I now do another search and I find Birmingham, if I click this option of add current selection to filter, then that will bring, like, it will keep my existing ones there as well instead of them disappearing like they usually would. Oops. And the other thing that's quite useful is, so if I had something filtered and then I was adding an extra item onto here, that's not my filter criteria. So what you can do, instead of having to redo all your filters, there's an option here to do reapply. So now if I click on that, then that London disappears because it's not Birmingham or Winslow. And the other thing is sometimes it's quite hard to see which columns you've got filtered on, and if you want to see all of your data again, then you can click on this clear button and it just removes all of your filters, which is always really handy because quite often people will not realize that there's a filter on and they'll sort of say, oh, you know, I can't find these values. I know that they're there, but they often just need to clear the filters. So the other thing that I find really useful is being able to highlight duplicate values. So for example, in this lot, these IDs, like I might want them to be unique. So if there's any that are duplicated, then I want to be able to see them really easily. So go conditional formatting, highlight duplicates, and then this is the default, but you can change those settings if you want. So, okay. And then what you can also do is then filter by color. So if you filter by the red ones, then you can just see the ones that you need to sort out. So one thing that I often have to do is I might need to compare two lots of data, and someone will send me some data and I'll say to them, is it in the same format? And that, yeah, it's the same format, but it's not. And you know, sometimes it's really useful to be able to see which ones are wrong. So what I usually use for that is, so these are my two lots of data columns, so they could be quite long like this, and it's quite hard to read. This is my other one that they've told me is the same, and I know that it's not the same, but it's really hard to see which one is like what's different about them. But a trick that I use is that I will copy these ones just onto just any other sheet or another worksheet somewhere. And what you can do is if you right click and there's a paste option called transpose, so that will put them downwards instead of going across, which is already so much easier to read. And then I'll do the same for my second lot of data and then paste it, transpose as well next to it. So that's easier to read already, but it's still quite well. Okay, so I can see already there's one extra column there, but if you do equals and then just click on the first one, equals this, I guess that's a formula, but it kind of compares the two values, and then you can double click to get down, so we can easily see which ones are the false ones. If we give that one just any column heading and then put a filter, so we can just choose the false ones if we want to, and we can see, okay, so they look the same, but what's wrong with this? Oh, it's got an extra space in it, so that one hasn't got a space, so I know that I can just go and delete that space, and that will now be the same. Okay, so then the other thing, I think a lot of these things are not new to Excel, but they're just new to me. But one thing that I learned is that what you can do is, if you've got a load of tabs like that, then it can be quite difficult to find the one that you need sometimes. Again, sort of going across ways, it's much more difficult to see than vertically, but you can, so instead of scrolling, what you can do is right click on here and then you'll see all of your different sheets, so that's just a lot easier to read, and you can select the one that you want to go to. Oops. So one feature that is quite new is checkboxes. So I think Excel did have checkboxes before, but they were just really terrible. But now you can add checkboxes. So if you wanted to sort of, I don't know, like tick the ones that you've already dealt with or something like that, then you can just click on here. And these are, so you can click on them, but they've got a value in the cell as well. So once it's ticked, then you can see here that the value is true. So then you can actually use that in a formula, and the ones that aren't ticked will be false. So something else was that if you want to type the same value into multiple cells, if you highlight the cells by clicking Control and highlighting whichever ones you want, and then what you can do is, oops, sorry. If you then type your value into there, but what you need to do is you need to press Control and Enter, then it will go into all of the cells if you just press enter, then it will only go into the cell that the last cell that you've typed into, which I find that quite unintuitive, but there you go. And the other thing that is kind of similar that I got from Alan Murray's book, again, I don't think this is a new feature either, but is that you can also type the same thing into multiple tabs. So for example, if you want the same column headings, then you can highlight the tabs, type, oops, can't type, like that, and they'll be in all of them. But the thing to look out for is that if you had a value in these cells already, then that will just overwrite it and it won't give you a warning or anything like that. So one thing that I use quite a lot is if you've got quite a lot of columns, and for example, if I wanted to compare the name with the postcode or something, I want them to be next to each other. So you can hide them, the cells that are in between. But the problem with that is, so if you right click and you can hide them and they'll be there, but then when you unhide them, then that kind of just goes back to how it was before, but you might want to re-hide them again. So it's a bit of a faff to have to do that all the time. So what I quite often do instead is I'll group them. So if you highlight the ones that you want to hide and go to the data tab, well, I've lost it. And then if you group them, then that means you can hide them, but you can reopen them and then hide them again really easily. So if you need to go back and forth, then it's just a lot easier to do. So the other thing that is quite useful, also just to do with navigating around, is you can really easily create links to, well, can be to a website, but what I'm thinking is just links to another sheet in the tab. So I'm just going to create another tab here. Basically, if you right click and go to link and go insert link, if you go a place in this document, then if I wanted to link to the data tab, then that will create a link to it. So what I've noticed though is that the text to display, so if I click on OK, then it comes up with the name like that, and it so it's kind of useful because it tells you where you'll be like which cell you'll be selected, but it also looks a bit ugly, so you can change the name of that. So if I was going to the calendar one, for example, then I can go there and then just rename it, just remove that last bit, and that just give me the name of the tab. So this is quite often something that people will ask me. Like sometimes people will want to type quite a lot into their cells, like some description or something like that. So the way that you can do a carriage return within a cell is if you press the Alt key. So if I'm typing, I don't know, items, I've got item 1, and then if I do Alt and enter, then that will carriage return within the same cell. Item 2, yep, and then well, it automatically resizes the cell for you as well. So one thing, I'm guessing that we have probably got quite a lot of Power Query users. One of the things that I've used to find really frustrating was that if you're in Power Query, you can't then go and look at your sheet while the Power Query window is open. So if I just go like that just to get the Power Query window, because quite often I'll be working on something in Power Query, but I need to go back to my data or just to check something, or the other thing is, the thing that probably happens the most is that I'm waiting for my query to load and it's taking a really long time, so I'm just having to wait for it, and then I can't do other work while I'm waiting for it to load. If you try and open another Excel window, then you get this dialog box, but there's a few workarounds for that. So one of the workarounds is using the online Excel. So you can either have the same file open in there and you can still see it. So that's quite a good use for Excel Online, because I don't generally use Excel Online very often. But the other thing that you can do, which I think, so Mark Proctor wrote a really detailed blog with lots of different ways that you can get around this, but I realized I didn't read it properly, because what he said is that if you go to open the other file, so I've got my files here, so if you double click on that as if to open it, and then as soon as you can, hold down the Alt key. But what I didn't realize is that you have to keep the Alt key held down. I just pressed it and that doesn't work. So you have to keep it held down, and then you get this pop-up box asking if you want to start a new instance of Excel, and you just go yes. So that way you can work on other files at the same time, which is really, really useful. But one thing, well, there's a few things to look out for though, I suppose, is you can't like copy data from one instance to another instance. Also, if you want to, if you've got formulas that you're referring to the other cell, the other worksheet, so like sometimes I might write a formula and then click into a different worksheet, and then that refers to the other worksheet, so that will not work in this instance. Yeah, so that was what I wanted to show, but I just had one more thing, because I was waiting for a really long time for my Excel versions to get updated, and I kept hearing about different features that that newer versions were getting, and I couldn't have them, which was really, really frustrating. But one of them, which is just very simple, but I think it's really helpful, and I think a lot of people would really like it, is the focus cell. So yeah, so if you've got a lot of data, sometimes you can't see where you are in the worksheet, so it just highlights that for you. Yep. And that's the end of my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions or anything. And the other thing I was thinking is that I'd be really interested to know if other people have got other tips as well.
Oh, people have all kinds of tips. Actually, so I don't see that we got any questions in the queue on this, but there's been a lot of comments from different things from people saying that, okay, did not know that, did not know. And I think your very first tip, I'm looking at going, okay, I didn't know that. As far as like being able to click and copy the sum version from the bottom of the bar. So I mean, it just goes to show, like, I mean, there's so many little things all over the place that you just don't discover, right, when you're doing this stuff. So this was cool. It was just really nice to see lots of different little things going out there that people did or didn't think of. And I have to say, I mean, I know some of the names that were coming back saying I didn't know that, and I know their skill sets. So it's awesome. Really cool.
Thanks.
So, Tanya says she wrote down 5. There you go.
that copying one was really. I was at an older at my last job. I had that, and then I moved to my new job, and I was so used to using that. And then my Excel version was older, and I couldn't use it anymore, and I found that so frustrating.
That's funny. I do want to say I was I love seeing when you went to create your table, and I'm like, oh, Monkey Tools is installed. This is brilliant. So thank you for that. That's so cool to see that in the wild from my perspective. Yeah, no, it's like I say, it's really cool. And I mean, a lot of names coming up with a lot of different things that you show, just little pieces. And I think this is one of the things that, I usually tell people when they come to a training session, look, if you learn like 2 or 3 things, then it's been a good day, right? Because there's so much that's out there and whatnot. And so many of us just are self-taught, that being able to pick these up, I mean, you don't see it until you see someone doing it and go, wait, what was that? So awesome stuff. Really cool. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't see any question in here. Davisha says, my boss laughed when I said I'm attending Excel tips. It's work time in New Zealand, but it's been worth it. So there you go. That's awesome. Brilliant. Yeah, and Tanya says the drop-down validation without actually needing to set up the data validation. That's cool. Like, and honestly, I didn't know that one either. So neat stuff. Very good. Cool.
Yeah, a colleague showed me that, and I was just, that's amazing. And I think Mike said there was a name for it, and because I only knew how to do it with the shortcut, but I think Mike knows the official way to do it.
Is that the right click fill from list or something?
I think. Was it?
I think it was.
I think. Hang on.
Right click, pick from drop down list.
Pick from drop down. I think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Pick from drop down list.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. But it's got a keyboard shortcut. Very cool.
I didn't know the keyboard shortcut.
There you go. So well done. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for coming and doing this, Lee. This has been great. I mean, I always enjoy a session where I learn a couple of new tricks, and I definitely got a couple out of this, and I think a lot of other people did here too. So very, very good stuff.
That's amazing.
There you go. Cool. Well, listen, thank you for coming and doing this. Really appreciate it. To others out there that have got cool tips and tricks on this, you heard Lee. She'd love to hear about them. I'd love to hear about them. So if you want to come onto our show and show some of these cool things, we'd love to see it. Just get in touch with us. On that note, I think what we'll probably do is wrap up for today.